Oh, yeah. I was probably one of the oldest ones around, and I was in my mid-20s.
Wow.
How old were these boys and girls?
They could be anywhere from probably 8, 10, 12 years old, all the way to usually their early 20s.
And where'd they come from?
Some of them came from Omaha, some of them came from New York, or he had them out in Washington, D.C. He could pull people out of the woodwork from anywhere, it seemed like.
Now,
How about Los Angeles, Las Vegas, San Francisco?
Oh, yeah, he had people all over.
Now, did you have parties at all those cities?
What's that?
Did you have parties at all those cities?
I didn't go to the parties personally at all those cities, but I know that they did have parties at different places.
Now, Rusty, with your knowledge of what has happened and what was going on in retrospect, do you think these kids all were kids that had been abducted and then went through this mind control program and mind training program?
Not all of them. You know, a lot of them, they were street kids.
Yeah.
And he had a way of finding people who would not be missed. And they would basically, he'd find somebody out on the street and he'd bring them in and feed them, clothe them, give them a real nice, glamorous life.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's payback time. And that's what he would do.
So he was a con artist.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
To go on with it, huh?
Yeah, he didn't live in the ghetto for nothing.
Yeah.
Did you take pictures of these sex acts?
I shot pictures from the hip. You know, I didn't actually sit there and focus and take pictures of the things. That's what they wanted me to do, but I did not want to get into that. And
So you were taking pictures from the hip to protect yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was doing. And in federal court, they did have a guy that was taking the pictures, and I'd seen him on about 3 different occasions. And one day, we were out in Washington, D.C., Larry King had Nancy Reagan's hairdresser come and cut color and perm my hair. And anyway, he got all these new clothes, and he would say, you wear this, 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 or that. And you be at this place at a certain time with your camera. And I'd be there and dressed like that, and then he'd have me go somewhere else, and it was change clothes on the way and wear this. And what they were doing is putting me out in front of all the people and basically showing me off as the photographer. And they were showing me off, and in the process, what they were doing was having this other photographer shooting the sex parties and the little kids and snuff films and stuff like that.
Snuff films?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where they actually go out and kill somebody on film.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the things that Larry really wanted me to get into. And I wanted no part of that whatsoever.
How did you resist that, Rusty?
Oh, I have ways of sidestepping a lot of things if I can help it.
Yeah.
And that's basically it is, you know, I got offered a tremendous amount of money to do these. And, you know, it was, I turned them down because I didn't want to get into legal problems. And the amount of money wouldn't be worth it for what the results would be, and the fact of just having to live with the fact that you've done this.
Plus, I've been around Rusty quite a bit for long periods of time, and he's a man who really cares and has compassion, and this just wasn't his bag. I mean, he commanded with morals.
Rusty, how often was Larry King making these snuff films and even the pedophilia parties? How often were these going on?
Oh, the parties were a couple times a week, a lot of times.
My gosh.
You know, it was a weekly event, basically.
Yeah. And what about these snuff films? Did he do those indoors or outdoors?
They were usually done out of the way. They were places that, like an old farmhouse or something like that, where they would sacrifice somebody.
Boy. Who would they sacrifice?
Basically, they'd take one of the kids.
So the kids that have been kidnapped or otherwise?
I guess. As far as I could tell, that's where they come from. And
did you get a chance to talk to any of these kids?
Oh, there were some of them I got to talk to. You didn't get to say too much because Larry always seemed to have an ear on everything, and you never knew who was going to rat you out to him.
Yeah.
If you said something. And he was a very vicious man if you crossed his path.
Did he torture you?
Oh, there have been a couple times. There was things where I was beat around a little bit, and it was put pressure on. And he knew how to blackmail a person very well.
Yeah. My gosh.
How did he blackmail you?
Well, basically, he said, you've been around this, we'll take and tell your folks that you're gay, this and that. The next thing, we know where you live, and your family, they're not safe. That's where we're at. Basically, he would make you where you were very uncomfortable if you didn't do what he wanted you to do.
The film that you shot from your hip, Rusty, that was film that you kept for yourself and they didn't know about it?
Yep.
But what about the other film, huh?
That's the film that Gary Caradori got killed over.
The film from the hip.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you keep any...
They didn't know you were doing this, of course.
No. Larry, he'd have the film for me, and if he gave me 5 rolls of film, he expected 5 rolls of film back at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, if it was anything that might be damaging to somebody or that, he made sure that he had the film.
Right.
And I was basically sneaking in an extra roll of film.
Hmm.
And
so instead of 5 rolls of film, you had 6 and 7 rolls of film.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know how I carry film around.
Yeah, I've seen you operate.
Yeah. But Rusty, how about this? The other fellow, the other photographer, who did take the incriminating pictures and also the snuff films.
Okay. Getting back to where I was saying about federal court, this came up in federal court. What was it? February 5th of '99, in Judge Warren Erbaum's courtroom. In the Paul Benassi versus Larry King trial.
Right.
He took and came up with the extra photographer came up. And you there?
We're here.
Okay. Yeah, it sounded like I got cut off. Anyway, that came up, and they had me take off my shirt and show them that I did not have a scar on my right shoulder. And the photographer that was filming the sex parties had a scar on his right shoulder.
Oh, okay.
So, what happened to him, Rusty?
What's that?
What happened to this other photographer?
I have no idea where he's at, if he's even alive.
Really?
And did you know his name at the time?
I was thinking it was Nick. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't have any of my papers to go back through and look.
Yeah. Rusty, what an incredible experience, I have to tell you. I mean, just, you hear the stories. I read some of the testimony from Paul Benassi and the stuff up at Bohemian Grove. Did you ever go up there?
Yep. I've been to Bohemian Grove.
What kind of things were going on up there that you saw or that you photographed?
Well, they've got a 40-foot owl up there that they burn in effigy. And if I remember right, his name is Hola. And it's sort of a satanic ritual type deal. And for those people who don't know what Bohemian Grove is, this is where your laws are made. It's not in Washington. It's not on Capitol Hill. It's all cut and dried before it gets there.
Wow.
The Bohemian Grove is a very, very elite, select, well-guarded club. I mean, it is creme de la creme.
And who attended the Bohemian Grove, and how often did they meet?
I don't know how often they met. I was only out there that time. And anyway, they would go out there, and it was a good old boys club, basically. And that's where your laws were basically made. Your banking was taken care of. You know, things like that would deal with your everyday life would really come to be. And it was just absolutely amazing for a plowboy to see this.
And who would attend the Bohemian Grove?
It was all your movers and shakers that worked behind the scenes, basically. The ones that didn't like being in the limelight, but they made the things happen. The people that were in the limelight, for the most part, were just their puppets.
So you mean
were they there also, the celebrities and the politicians?
Well, some of them would be. But, you know, your politicians and that, some of those would be there. But the people that really would make things happen, you know, like the world banking and things like that, those are the people who took part in these.
And that's where a lot of the stuff films were also made, wasn't it?
I believe so. I don't know for a fact, but I believe so. From what I understand, from what I've seen, you know, that's like I tell everybody when I do an interview. This is what I've seen. It's what I believe, and you know, I believe it to be true.
Yeah.
And I have no reason to be making any of this stuff up. You know,
my gosh, no.
I've got out on the line big time, even just talking to you about this.
Sure. Well, I can imagine.
What about kidnapped kids? Were you aware of some of these kids being kidnapped?
Yes, I'd come to realize that was happening too. And, you know, these people were really, they were ruthless. You know, they would go out and they had catalogs where they would have pictures of kids, and somebody would pick out a kid that they wanted, and they went and they would go kidnap them to order, basically. And, you know, this is basically what happened to Johnny Gosch.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet Johnny Gosch or know him?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you did?
Can you tell us about that?
I can't say too much about it because of things that are going on right now. But, you know, he was brought into something that would, you know, it isn't his background. You know Noreen, and she's a good lady. I mean, she's a wonderful person. And, you know, he basically was brought in, made into a sex toy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's what all came up. The kid's extremely bright.
How old was he, Rusty, when you met him? And also the last time you met him, too?
Oh, I don't have any idea how old he would have been.
Well, how many years ago was that?
It would have been back in 87, 88.
Oh, okay.
Well, he was 12 years old in 82, so...
Yeah.
He'd have been 17, 18 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
When you talked to Johnny, did he talk to you at all about his background or the circumstance of his kidnapping?
We couldn't get into that much because it was always, you know, you didn't know who you were talking to. And you didn't dare say too much. And you didn't dare ask too many questions either. That's right. you know, it's like Larry would always tell me, I used to be very good at remembering people's names and their faces. And he basically would drill it into us that you don't remember who, you don't remember what, and you don't remember what their name is.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw Larry King, Rusty?
It would have been in Washington, D.C. right before I escaped out the window.
Tell us about that.